You are watching a modern air combat environment tutorial video made on behalf of Battlespace Simulations by Close Air Solutions. Here is a brief overview of what we will cover in this tutorial video. If you want to control objects within the simulation using a joystick, using all the functions that MACE offers, then the joystick must be connected to a PC that is running MACE. Note, this applies even if the visual channel of the object you are controlling is on another machine. MACE sends the control commands over the network based on the settings that you apply in the MACE system settings. Each MACE instance can communicate with between 3 and 5 visual channels. Each MACE can control one first-person view, sometimes known as out-the-window view. In MACE, this is called the ownership. This could be a single visual channel or a multi-channel system. If you want multi-channel control, then this will come from a MACE version that is specifically designated for multi-channel support. In a JTAC training system, a controller for the JTAC to enable him to move around in the environment will need to be connected to a MACE system. MACE also allows you to control up to 3 pieces of emulated military equipment, also known as EME. This EME is attached to the ownership, that is to say the same platform as the first person or out the window view. Likewise, if you want to control an aircraft manually at the same time as a JTAC is under joystick control, then another MACE with flight controls connected would be required. This is often known as the role player station. In addition to the first-person view, you can also control from the same MACE a camera view, which is how users generally control targeting pods. In addition, MACE can send weather and time of day information to any or all of these supported channels from the MACE Mission Settings menu. To set up the views for the ownership, camera and emulated equipment, you need to enter some settings via the MACE Settings menu. Go to the View tab on the top menu bar and click on System Settings. Then click on the Visual tab. The visual groups on this tab allow you to configure the visual channels we just mentioned. There are some distinct sections you can see here. The ownership section, known as the out of the window or first person section. Here the camera or pod sensor view. And over here the emulated military equipment views and the weather. If you are using a MACE Versig system, you can point each of these individual views at a Versig view channel. In Versig, if I press Escape to view the dashboard, click on Startup and the Advanced Parameters, you will see 3 sets of digits called Site App Entity. It may help to think of these 3 digits combined as a sort of television channel or unique address of that visual channel. In MACE, we need to enter the Site App Entity address of the visual channel we want to display that particular view. For example, in the case of my ownership out the window view, I'm going to point it at the Versig that is on this machine by typing the Site App Entity address of this machine's Versig channel. If I enter the address and enable the channel, this instructs the assigned visual channel to automatically attach to the latched platform in MACE. The latched platform will be either the one that has locked displays set or the currently selected platform in the mission area if no entity is locked. Hopefully, you recall from previous tutorials that you can lock the displays to an individual platform. You can lock the ownership out the window view along with its associated EME and the camera view to different platforms. This is achieved by using the top lock and bottom lock buttons in the View tab. The top lock button, when pressed, locks the ownership view to whatever platform was selected in the mission area when you pressed it. You can tell it's locked because a black dot appears in the platform's icon. Now if I click other platforms in the mission area view, my Versig channel does not change because it is locked to that platform. The same applies to the bottom lock. If I select a platform and click bottom lock, then the camera is attached to the platform, which is selected in the mission area, and when I click on other platforms, the camera view remains in place. You can tell that the bottom lock has been applied because there is a second black dot that will appear below the top lock. You can bottom lock and top lock to different platforms, and both will have the black dots. So for clarification, when the top lock is selected, it will attach an out-of-window view to whatever address I specified here in the MACE View Settings Ownership section. If I have EME, then the EME view channels will also change to reflect the viewpoint of the selected platform. When setting up these view channels, it can help reduce network traffic if you input the corresponding IP address of the machine where the view channel is. By default, they are set to 0000, which means they are broadcasting across the network to all channels. This is fine, but you could be loading up the network with more traffic than is required. The exception to this rule is the weather. Usually, you want the weather to be broadcast to all visual channels by the controlling MACE, so most users would leave this as 0000 to ensure this. So now we know generally how to assign visual channels to the ownership with its EME and to a camera. It's worth discussing some settings within each. For ownership views, it is usual to select the platform default. Platform default tells the visual display to display the eye point based on where the actual eye point is on the human model or driver's position of a vehicle. Therefore, if you crouch or go prone with a human, the eye point adjusts automatically. Likewise, if you enter and sit in a vehicle, your eye point will be correct. When simulating a first person's perspective, for example a JTAC student controlling a JTAC entity in a dome, you should set the attach mode to platform default. Please note that for platform default to work correctly within Versig, you must ensure that the Versig attach offsets window is configured to display vehicle. The HUD settings will configure and draw the head-up display on the assigned visual channel. For Versig, the render distance value controls how large the HUD appears on your ownership out the window channel. The query LOS from Visual queries Versig for objects that can obstruct the line of sight. For example, if you have a fence between some soldiers and terrorists, MACE has a .shp file to know that it has to pathfind around the fence, but .shp files do not have the height and 3D shape of the fence. Rather than have the soldiers fire through the fence, MACE can query Versig if it has line of sight based on the obstructions. The field of view setting defines the maximum field of view of the visual channel. This setting is primarily used when controlling ground forces that can zoom in and out to simulate binoculars. These can be set for each channel, including the EME channels over here. You can also remove certain spectrums here, so they cannot be selected by the ownership view joystick. The camera view setup is very similar. It has the addition of a slew rate setting and a zoom as either continuous or step setting. To program a joystick, you do so from the System Settings Joystick tab. If you have plugged a joystick, or indeed joysticks, into the PC after you've started MACE, you will need to press the refresh button here, or else MACE will not pick up the inputs. Note that the joystick screen is divided into ownership controls and camera controls, much like the visual section. This means that you can control both the ownership and the camera from one joystick or separate joysticks plugged into the same MACE. This way, you can actually be flying an ownership whilst controlling the camera on another entity. To do this, you would top lock the joystick to the platform you wish to fly and bottom lock the camera to the other platform. MACE comes with some preset joystick configurations, and they can be loaded by clicking the Open button and selecting from the list. Likewise, you can save your own settings by clicking the Save button. If you want to start from scratch, then you click the New button. To program a joystick, click on the Program button. It will turn red and the text will change to Stop. Select the radio button next to the item you'd like to program. Press the button or move the axis, if assigning an axis, on the joystick, and that will associate it with the selected item. When you're done, click the Stop button. Whenever you program a joystick, the updates are applied to the currently loaded configuration. To take control of an entity with the joystick, make sure you tick the Take Control with Axis Movement option. If you're using MetaVR's Versig, then go to Attach Options, Attach Mode Advanced, and select Joystick Slurable. To invert the Y-axis movement of the joystick for ground entities, select Invert Look Axis. You can invert the camera axis in the same way. The way you arrange your windows on your MACE machine can be a very personal thing and can vary from user to user and use case to use case. Happily, MACE allows you to save your window configs. Once all avionics and combat displays are arranged as desired, to save the configuration, go to the System Settings, Window Configs, and click New, and then name the configuration. To edit a Windows configuration, load the desired configuration on your computer, rearrange the windows, and then click the Update button. You can also check the Hide Borders option to remove the window frames when saving and sending configurations. You can swap Windows configurations using a joystick key, which can be mapped in the Joystick Settings. This can be useful for switching between avionics and combat setups on a role player station. Here is the summary of what we covered in this tutorial video.